because the government has been defeated in the past half hour or so in the House of Lords, because members of the House of Lords voted to allow Parliament, in effect, to block the government from leaving the EU without any kind of Brexit deal, though I should say that the motion has to be approved by MPs as well eventually, but that's the gist of the kind of the vote that we had in the last 20 minutes or so. 335 to 244, so quite a hefty majority for those who want this amendment carried through, to give lawmakers, to give Parliament the final say on the outcome of the Brexit negotiations with Brussels, including staying in, by the way, if they don't like the final agreement. That is the important qualification here. So that's why this amendment is so significant. It'll go back to the House of Commons and let's see what MPs make of it. I do have some reaction from the government, because the Minister in the House of Lords, who is in charge of the Brexit process, that's Lord Callanan, said, "We are disappointed that the House of Lords has voted for this amendment in spite of the assurances that we have provided." He goes on to say, what this amendment would do is weaken the UK's hand in our negotiations with the EU by giving Parliament unprecedented powers to instruct the government to do anything with regard to the negotiations, including, and this is the important thing, trying to keep the UK in the EU indefinitely. And that's why this amendment is seen to be such a significant one. It is absolutely right, says Lord Callanan, that Parliament is able to scrutinise the final deal, and that is why we have already committed to giving both houses a vote on that final deal. We will now consider the implications of the House of Lords decision. So those implications could be very far-reaching indeed. That's the latest there on the Lords vote. It's 5:20. Let's go straight to the Palace of Westminster and let's talk to Labour's Yvette Cooper, who's there for us. Yvette, thanks very much for joining us. I'll come on to the new Home Secretary in a moment, which is exactly what I want to talk to you about. But can I have a quick response to that vote in the House of Lords?
Well, I think it's very sensible, because it's just about parliamentary sovereignty. It's about saying you can't allow a small group of Conservative ministers to take all of the decisions about what happens if the deal starts to go wrong. You've got to have a proper parliamentary debate, you've got to have some proper wider parliamentary decisions, and make sure you don't end up in a kind of no-deal car crash situation where we crash out with nothing at all in place. So I think it's just about being sensible, and it's just about having that wider debate. In the end is what the government promised would happen. I think the House of Lords are just putting it into practice.
But in this form, do you think it stands a chance of being passed by the House of Commons?
I would hope so. I've not looked at the detail of the amendment or what kind of support it might get in the House of Commons, but I think the principle of having a meaningful vote, and meaning that the government's negotiations have to be accountable to Parliament. They've got a responsibility to try and get the best possible Brexit deal, and to make sure that they're answering to Parliament and to the public for doing so. You can't just leave power concentrated in a small group of ministers' hands.